Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the megalithic stonework of Sacsayhuaman in Cusco, Peru. Currently, there are three main theories concerning their construction. First is the mainstream belief, the one I feel is the most ridiculous of the three theories, and that is that cavemen quarried these massive boulders, dragged them hundreds of miles, and carved them into these amazing, fantastic shapes. Then we have aliens did it, which is possible, but I doubt it. And then finally, we have some kind of lost technology like melting stones or lasers. Unfortunately, the thing about this theory is that it relies on a lost technology, and therefore there is no evidence to prove or disprove the theory. And this pretty much goes for all three theories. They are all lacking the vital ingredient of evidence. So then we move on to the theory I'm going to present. And unlike the other three theories, I am going to present evidence to support the theory. And that theory is they are just concrete blocks. So in this video, I'm going to look at the way we use cement today that is similar to the way these megalithic blocks were made. And then we'll take a closer look at the site itself and look at the evidence that is available to us. Now, to make concrete, you need a bonding agent or a binder. And in the modern world, we use cement. We know humans have been using a range of materials throughout history to create cement, such as lime or chalk mixed with water, bitumen, volcanic ash, even gypsum. The materials needed to make a binder or cement are all readily available in South America and Peru. However, unfortunately, I don't know what bonding agent they used. I haven't been able to make a hypothesis about that because the information was lacking. So let's get started. So what we're looking at in Sacsayhuaman are sacks similar to these filled with junk, dirt, grit, rocks, animal bones, anything to bulk them up. They're shaped and then the bonding agent is added. Obviously, they didn't use these modern day sacks, they used a hemp type material to make their sacks, and I'll be showing you evidence of weaving within the rocks. We use material like sacks to shape concrete today. Here is an example of a modern day wall using sack material, and a few more examples. What I'm suggesting is that we have been using this simple technique for thousands of years. Obviously, using cement, these sacks would be wet and they will need to be held in place until the cement hardened. Now I'm going to propose that they use the exact same techniques we use today, which is creating a wooden frame to hold the concrete in shape until it sets, similar to the images on the screen. One more thing we'll be looking at is shapes within the rock. Sacks are soft and whatever is in them sticks out, and you can see shapes. Now we don't know what they are, but we can deduce that something is inside from these shapes. So in summary, the theory I am presenting, and I do apologise for these graphics, is that the ancient society of Sacsayhuaman created these magnificent blocks by first using tree stumps or logs to help shape them. These were held together by a wicker framework, which was inside a cloth or a hemp sack. It was then filled or bulked up with anything available: soil, grit, sand, stone, boulders, animal bones, any junk they could find. Then finally they were soaked in a binder, a cement, and shaped with a wooden frame until they turned hard. Okay, so let's take a look at the evidence. First, we'll look for evidence of the sackcloth that is evident on the surface of the boulders. Rocks, unless they are layered, don't flake, as in this image, and there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that these boulders are carved in inverted commas from layered rock. So any theory needs to explain what this flaking is. What I'm suggesting is that it is the cloth sack they use to create the boulder, and it is that is flaking away. When we take a closer look at the surface of the rock, I've changed the contrast so you can see it better. We can see that there's a grain that appears the same as a woven sack material. This is a good section to take a look at. You can see the grain clearly looks like a woven sack, not marks from the result of carving or machining. On this rock, this area is a good example. What this reminds me of is a plaster cast from a broken arm, very similar in appearance. And once again, you can see the markings going in this direction and this direction. Not what you would expect if the boulder was carved. Here's another example with the markings heading in two different directions. But more than that, at right angles to one another, just as we see in a woven sack material. Now on this rock we can see the canvas sack material wrapped around the rock. Okay, so now we'll look at the shapes that appear on these boulders. Now some are indented like this image, and some extrude as in this image. These are two different things that are happening here. First, with the extruded shapes, these are things within the sack, within the boulder. And here, I believe these are logs that they have used to help shape the boulder. Whereas here, the indented shapes, these are where they have held the boulder in place until the cement has hardened, something similar to this. So in this image, what we're looking at is the wicker framework, and there are many examples of this throughout the site. So staying with shaping, we'll take a look at one of the really big boulders. Now what they've done here is use a tree trunk or a very large log. Here's another view. When we take a closer look at an area that has eroded, we can see the wooden shape of a tree or a log. In this image, we can see the outline of a log shape. Now, occasionally you'll come across these things sticking out. Some of them will be just boulders or logs sticking out of the sacks, but here I think they used a log with a knot in it, a bit like this. Here, once again, you can clearly see the tree or log shape. So that's the framework. Now we'll look for evidence that they filled these sacks with any old junk. Now you'll hear some theories that these boulders show evidence of weapons fire damage or some kind of catastrophe damage, but we don't. This boulder is clearly damaged, but if you notice, the boulders either side are not damaged, which suggests it's unlikely to be weapons fire or damage from a catastrophe, but rather simple water damage. This is where the builders haven't mixed the binder, the cement, well enough, and over the eons the weak parts have eroded away, and that's all that is happening here. Okay, so again I've changed the contrast so we can see things a little better, and we can see all sorts of shapes in this boulder. What they are, we can't be certain, but we can make a good guess at what they probably are. So here we can see a stick, probably part of the framework. Here we can see grit or small stones or even animal bones. Here we can see a piece of wood sticking out. And here a rock. In this image, a different boulder, we can see what looks like a stick, probably part of the framework, and the stones and grit they use to fill the interior. Here another boulder, and there are lots of things we can see here. And the site is full of examples of junk they use to fill these boulders. Okay, let's move on to how they shape these boulders. In this image, there's a telltale clue to how they shape these rocks, and it's this indented line here. Once again, they have used the technique we use today, and that is creating a wooden framework to hold it in place until the cement has hardened. And we can see the marks this process has left. Now we also see a lot of these indented marks all over this site, but with these they are mainly on the higher levels. Not always. Here's one on the lower level, but usually they are higher up, which gives us a clue to what they are. So what are they? Well, as they are higher up, we can assume they needed to be held in place until the cement was set, and I think that is what we are looking at here. These are the places where they used logs to hold the boulders in place until they hardened. Now there was one shape that really puzzled me for ages, and it's this. They've obviously used it to help shape the boulder. Take a closer look at the object. It looks like a pipe of some sort. Could even possibly be metal. First of all, I thought this may be a hollowed out log, but hollowed out logs need quite a thick rim. When they get too thin, they get a bit flimsy, and that doesn't coincide with the observations of the object we see. So I considered wildlife of the region. I thought it might be a shell of a shellfish, maybe some sort of flora, but I couldn't find anything until I considered extinct animals from the region, and that's when I came across this guy. This is a Cuvionius, and they went extinct about 6,000 years ago, or it could be a stegmastodon, and they went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Now, if it is a tusk of one of these animals, it does suggest the dating of the site should be a lot older than presently believed. But it is a good candidate to explaining this object. Even the rims of the tusks seem to match. These are actually elephant tusks. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an image of a tusk from the extinct species that hadn't been reconnected to the skull. But tusks are just hair fibre, like our nails. They are strong, and as you can see, they are quite thin around the rim. Now this is a tooth from these species, and you can see shapes like this in a lot of the boulders. So I think a strong candidate for explaining this object. And that's it. So now we have 4 theories to explain these magnificent boulders at Sacsayhuaman. You can go with the ridiculous and unfortunately the mainstream academia theory that primitive cavemen quarried these boulders, dragged them hundreds of miles, then carved them into these fantastic shapes using stone tools. Or you can go with the fanciful idea that aliens travelled hundreds of light years to build the wall. Or maybe you want to believe that there was high technology in our distant past. Or maybe you can consider that they understood the basic concept of concrete. And these are concrete boulders. Amazing, fantastic concrete boulders. If you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe, press the like button, share it, let other people know, press the bell thing, and until next time, take care of yourself.